Hey, it's Greg with Reality REI. Getting a lot of calls and emails asking me what I think about the COVID-19 and how it's going to affect the real estate market. I've been investing since 1997, so I've been around the block. But that doesn't mean that my opinion is any better than any others. Just realize we're all looking to a crystal ball and trying to determine, hey, what's gonna happen here. And really, and this is for you agents and investors out there, and how you guys are kind of perceiving the market, what's going to happen. Overall, I think a lot of it's going to depend on what you think is going to, like, what you personally think is going to happen, and what your risk tolerance is as far as an investor goes. Mainly because a lot of folks out there think it's going to be fairly short-lived, and we're going to have a market bounce back fairly quickly. I am more conservative. I'm a lot more, I guess, hesitant overall. I feel like this is going to be a lot more detrimental than we think. I think it's going to last longer than we think. As you can remember, when this thing first started off, it was just going to be for a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months. Now we're hearing like it's going to last a little bit longer. So I'm thinking this thing is actually going to last probably until at least August, until we kind of like crawl out of this. But the long-term detriments of that is going to be quite impactful as far as the economy goes, and that's ultimately what I'm concerned about overall. If you think about, like, it's not just like first start off as the service industry as far as like cruise ships. Then you look at like Orlando's probably getting hammered because they've got Disney World and all the parks down there, and those are all closed down for a period of time. But you just look at the overall economy. I mean, restaurants are all closed. Your doctors, dentists, all those guys are having either modifying what they're doing or modifying their hours. But basically, if you look at their businesses overall, impacted big time. So there's a lot of businesses that are impacted big time. And as soon as folks are basically run out of money, it's gonna be extremely challenging. And a lot of people again think this is going to be short lived, but what if it's not? People may have savings to last for a month or so, but then after that, you're going to see a lot of it's really going to pound the economy overall. I mean, I think that right now the economy is being pounded, but we're just not seeing the numbers to kind of to show or support that. But trust me, it's gonna take effect. And then what happens when we run out of money as individually, and then on top of that, don't have necessarily a government bailout that's kind of, I think some people might be hoping for, but it's not going to be nearly enough to withstand what's going on as far as the economy overall. So once that kind of ripples through, it's going to affect the market, the real estate market, but it takes a little time. Stock market's kind of like a canary in the coal mine. Real estate is kind of like that slow turtle that just lags behind. It still happens, but it's like the stock market's more like a Ferrari. The real estate market's like a giant tractor trailer. There's a lot of momentum involved with it, and it takes a while to move. So it's usually got a lag time, and I think that from a real estate perspective, we're not going to see the numbers that are like hit until 6 months, a year down the road, when you see a lot of short sales and REOs. Once people like can't make payments for a period of time, how long does it take for those to work through the system? I know they talked about freezing foreclosures and evictions, but they can't do that forever. And so we'll see. I mean, maybe there'll be some kind of huge government bailout to last, but I have a hard time thinking that that's going to be the case, and would rather prepare as if that's not going to happen. So that's kind of how I see the economy going. And so what should you agents do? Because agents are the kind of the easiest, and for you agents out there, realize that you guys kind of work off of volume. We work off of transactions. I think obviously if there's any kind of local or national shutdown, there's going to be a problem. But besides that, I think that you're going to kind of be cruising along for a period of time, where there might be some hesitancy in the market, and realize that whenever you get to either crux of the market going down or up, during that time period, there's a stop where people are like, whoa, what's going on here? And then you may have some people jumping into the market because they think it's a good time to buy. So you guys are always working off of volume, and I don't think the volume is going to change that much, except for those quarantine periods. You will have some periods of time here as the market starts to go down a little bit, or people get a little bit more hesitant, where there'll be less volume. But then as we get toward the bottom, there'll be people that will jump in because of like interest rates being low, prices being low, just being a good opportunity. And then if you're looking at picking up listings, you better put that short sale hat back on the REOs, for you folks that were in the 2008 timeframe. So there's going to be, I think, a lot more short sales and REOs, let's say 6 months to a year down the road. All right, so just realize that's how the business may have changed for you guys overall. Now, for investors, for you buy and hold investors, I've gotten calls from folks that have, sitting on cash or just kind of like are almost like waiting for an opportunity like this and they're wondering when to jump in. I think it's going to be 6 months to a year down the road. A lot of it's going to depend on, what the government does to try to curtail the amount of foreclosures that potentially could come on the market. And this is again assuming that this is going to extend for a period of time. So there's going to be some impact there. Like their government coming in, I think they're going to have to step in to really curtail it. But we'll just have to see what happens. But let's just assume the worst, and there's not really much the government's going to do. Then we're looking at the typical time frame is about 6 months to a year for it to kind of like work through or get to a spot where it's at the bottom. But we'll see. I mean, we just, again, I'm just kind of looking at the crystal ball like anyone else. But if I'm sitting on some cash, I think the opportunity to purchase is going to be about 6 months to a year, assuming this is going to be a longer extent as far as an economic impact. Now, for you folks that are like, what about wholesaling or rehabbing and that stuff like that? Rehabbing, personally, I've kind of put the rehabbing on hold. I've got some folks that are, that are money partners that are still interested in rehabbing, and obviously I'll still pick up deals for them if they're willing to take the risk, because again, it all comes down to what your risk tolerance is. Now, my personal money, I'm just kind of waiting on the side. Now, for wholesaling, I think that's going to be it'll be difficult for a period of time, because what's going to happen, it's the safest thing, by the way. Traditional wholesaling is what I'm talking about. That's the safest thing, because you can just get under contract and hopefully resell it. But just realize that the public sentiment is roughly about 6 months behind. It takes, months of data. If you think about marketing to a seller, it takes 5 times to hit them before they decide to do something with you. Let's say 3 to 6 attempts to get in touch with someone before someone actually acts. Same thing with data. They've got to hear that the market's going down 3 to 6 times, and that usually happens after the data comes out, which is it's going to take a while, because you're going to have a period of time where things are going to sit on a market for a period of time. Then you'll have the sales coming in at a lower clip, at a lower dollar clip. And that's when once that data gets out for a period of time, then sellers will finally roll around and go, oh, wow, the market's actually going down. But before then, they're just going to think that it's kind of like, that the numbers were the way they were three or 6 months ago, which, again, are the numbers are fine. So as there's kind of like that crest and the market heading down, it's going to be a little challenging for a period of time, because you're going to have to convince your sellers by typically just showing them active listings like, hey, the market's, sliding down. It's not the way where it used to be. You've seen some of the numbers out there as far as the economy goes. This is where our offer needs to come in. Okay, so that's from a wholesaling. Now, from a traditional wholesaling, for a lease purchase wholesaling type of perspective, I think you still have an opportunity there, but you need to extend out that lease period for about 3 years. That would give enough time for the market, if it does go down, to bottom out and then come back up to get to a purchase price to would be reasonable. Again, depending on how deep this thing goes or how long it lasts, it will at least give some kind of time frame. So I'd be a little hesitant to sign a 2-year lease purchase, but a 3-year lease purchase would be, kind of a little bit more potential of having both the buyer and the seller win at the end, and that's when, as in essence, what you want. So that's how I kind of see it from an investing perspective. So hopefully that gives you a good idea of how I see the market. Again, I tend to be a lot more conservative than a lot of folks. Some might say it's more of a sky is falling approach, but each of us have our own personalities. If you're a lot more risk, if you're fine with risk, you might think this thing might only last for a couple months. We're going to come out of it and the market's going to steamroll just like it did before. If so, then react accordingly. But just me personally, I tend to think that this is going to be a lot worse than what economically than just something that's going to last for a couple of months. And we'll just see how it all shakes out in the end. But I did want to be able to address it to those folks that are asking questions. And hopefully that answers some of the clarity. Feel free to reach out to me on email or give me a call if you'd like. Most of my phone numbers are in my material that I send out as far as emails and stuff like that. Or you can, again, shoot me over an email, reach me on social media, however you'd like to get in touch with me, and I'll be happy to discuss with it further if you'd like. And wishing you nothing but good health to you and your family, and hope you and your family stay protected during this period of time. And I wish you nothing but the best. And if there's anything I can do to help, feel free to reach out. Take care.